Welcome to First Light on the Staffordshire and Worcestershire Canal, and it's come off the hook, but fortunately this side of the water, as opposed to dropping straight back in. I'm off the mark with a roach. When I set my iPhone to record me directly as I look into it right now, it's much lighter than when I flip it the other way. As you can see there, fish number 2, and the second species, my favourite, perch. As well as YouTube comments, I've got a guest book on my website. Peter Carr posted there following my session yesterday evening on the River Severn. It brought back memories for him way back in the 80s and 90s when he was, and I'm watching the float while I speak, while he was a member of a Crewe Pioneers Angling Club in Crewe in Cheshire, which sadly is defunct now. And he was talking about some of the stretches, or mentioning some of the stretches that they had, Newtown, Dyneweth, Welshpool, Trathwennog, and Aberbecan was one of them. And that reminded me, I've fished there. In fact, I've fished all of those places that he mentioned on other clubs' tickets. And Aberbecan is, well, it's the mouth of the Becan Brook that goes into the Severn near Newtown. And when I worked in Welsh football, I used to give lifts to a couple of Irish players that we had at the time, Curtis Byrne and Dean Ebby. If you know Irish football, you'll be familiar with those names. But when they moved on, I started to take a rod and some fishing tackle. So I would set out early, pull in BAA water, pull in and do some fishing, both the brook and the Severn itself, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. 3 red maggots on a Drennan wide gape specialist hook, size 14. I always have an anchor shot as well on the canal, and it's needed this morning because there is quite a pull on there, like a slow moving river. There's the float. It's a Drennan crystal, 0.8 gram, shot either side, and I've got one about 18 inches down. If you watch my videos, you know the story. And then I've got Maxima Chameleon 4-pound line straight through from the spool to the hook, 3 500 Shimano reel, and a Gray's Prodigy TX float rod. I wasn't sure whether I was going to need it, the umbrella that is, but the 50-50 percentage rain has swung the side of the wet stuff. It's not bothering the fish though, the float disappears, and I missed that one. Sucked maggot. One of the maggots has been sucked. The culprit, a roach. Catching a few of those. As I often say, don't always show every single fish to the camera. They're not bothered by the size 14 hook and the 3 maggots either. Very hungry and greedy roach. As I stated, not showing all of the fish, but I think this one's worth a view. The biggest roach of the session so far. I often use those words, so far, because I'm very much aware that as long as your bait's in the water, you never know what fish will pick it up next. Confidence is a big part as far as successful angling is concerned. Now, of course, confidence in itself won't put fish on the bank, but if you set out thinking to yourself, I don't know why I'm bothering, should have just stayed in bed, I won't catch anything today, there's a good chance that you won't. But when you fish with confidence, you fish well. You're expectant, and those ingredients in the mix will produce a far more successful session than if you're negative and down about it and thinking to yourself, oh, is that the time? I've only been here 20 minutes, it seems like 3 hours. Positivity is a big plus, not only in fishing, but in life in general. So far, that's the largest perch of the session. Not a monster, but it's a spot as far as I'm concerned. Two and a half hours, and this will be the final fish of the session. A great way to start the day.